I feel like you set us up from talking about the royalties of design to a discussion into the drivers of democracy in design. Marcus, you've spent 3 decades at IKEA, and in that period, it's become the world's most influential design brand, arguably, with mass market appeal. Can you talk a little bit about how you made that happen?
Yeah, that's a kind of a long story, isn't it? We're turning 80 this year, actually.
Give us the headlines version.
I think it's actually our ability to do things together within IKEA that's changed a lot. We have always worked very, very close to the two ends of product development, which is like the client or the user and the factory from the very beginning. Most of our things are made, actually, the designs are made on the factory floor. So we bring the designers to the factory floor. But before going there, we're going to home visits to see what are the needs, dreams, and you know, aspirations of people for real. And we're not really trusting typical institutes that makes surveys for you. We want to do it firsthand. We're very old school that way, one could say. And then I think it's also our starting point is most of the time pretty different to others. So when we design at IKEA, we always start with like, what's the price point that would make this product, you know, possible for people to buy? Because we want good ideas to reach as many as possible from the very beginning. And this is kind of an ethos that we have had from the very beginning at IKEA. We call that democratic design. So we started out with form and function, but what about the last thing? That's like affordability, to make form and function like possible to buy. Then we have added sustainability and quality to that kind of formula as well. So that's encapsulated in all of our products, and that's how we measure success in our products.
And would you say one of the biggest obstacles to the mass appeal of design is price? And is that something that you'll look at from the start of coming in with the design?
I mean, it's hard to sell something, no matter the price, if it's not good enough. So, but when we do, you know, survey almost all typologies of products, it's actually the major thresholds for making people dare to buy also like good design, what we consider is good design, is actually the pricing. So if we go for affordability, it's not like, there's a vast difference between having a low price and being cheap. We want to have low prices, we want to be affordable, so make it possible for people to buy it.
Andrew, I'd like to bring you in. You know, you found design inspiration in sources that others might completely miss, the car industry, for example. Could you talk a little bit about your process and how do you go from idea to creation stage?
I designed this chair. I don't know if everyone can see it,
yes.
But it's a good example of...
And by the way, after the event, I checked with Andu and he said, you all are welcome to come and sit on the chair and see how comfortable it is. I tried it out yesterday and I can confirm it is comfortable.
That's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good example of the way I am most interested in working, and it's basically every design is an excuse to have a conversation with an expert. So I am fascinated by car exhaust manufacturers. They have a very specific skill in TIG welding very thin stainless steel. So I started off thinking, how can I have the conversation with this person, and how can I have a conversation where both of our common goal is to both come together and make something that doesn't exist yet. Yeah. So it's kind of like a process of managing that conversation, learning the language they speak, and you know, coming together to make something that I hope people like.
And this was one of the winners of the Atelier 100 last year. Marcus, if you could talk a little bit about the contest, how that came about, and what it was about the chair that really appealed to the judges.
Yeah, I mean, Atelier 100 is a fabulous project, I must say, but I'm not the one to sell it. It's Andu who's been through it. It's a program. It's not like a contest. So it's a program that actually IKEA and H&M came together to do. It's like the first thing that we have done together, which is like meeting the public, honestly. And it came about from out of a need that we saw, both companies, for us growing in the future, for us making things even better. We need like the best creative talent. And we saw that actually we didn't have the diversity needed in the creative talent that we sought for, because we are serving like the many people from very different places, in very different places, in different situations. most of the people going to design schools, universities around the world are quite well-off kids with a father, like my father happened to be like the design manager of IKEA before me. And that's kind of a common thing. And we wanted to be like closer actually to the users. So we started this program. And the choice of Andu, I think he explained his interest. I'm like super interested in production. That's I could go nerdy for like hours talking about production because I love it. And some of the greatest things we have done in IKEA is actually, you know, when you cross-pollinate things, when you're thinking like outside of the normal box, how do I make like the next most affordable sofa? Most of the times, the big answer of that is not at the sofa supplier. It's to find like a new way of making a sofa, which is not at the sofa supplier, because the sofa supplier has like a set way of doing stuff. And this is how they measure success. So one of the great things from the past is actually like a sofa called Moment, which was done by Nils Gammelgård in the 80s or something. They started out going out to a factory for shopping trolleys. And by that, just going to a completely different way of making sofas, they cut the price by half. And it was like, you know, as good or better than a normal sofa. So that kind of thinking, we love that in IKEA. So I think that's where you come in.
How has the Atelier 100 process changed your career?
I mean, I'm speaking here. That's a big change. I think it was really their approach to kind of bring people together that wouldn't have these kinds of opportunities, but had something interesting to explore. I think is amazing. I can't.
And is there anything you think they can do differently this year?
I think for a designer, there's a lot of distance between thinking of making something and understanding how you'd make it inside the four walls of your workshop and stepping into a frame of reference when you're talking to hundreds or thousands of people. And I think producing at scale or producing in factories, I think there's a different way of problem solving. So I guess if there's a way of bringing that into the educational process, I think that's interesting.
So the creatives need a little help in getting their product to the market.
Yeah.
I think we actually had, like, what we saw also speaking to you guys from the very beginning is a lot of the things or the skills needed is not just being taught as a designer or as a creative. I would say that all of the applicants were really good at that. It was more about everything else around being a designer and especially being an independent. How do you sort out your economics? How do you do all of the boring things which are not taught at all in school, at least not in creative schools, which makes you a good entrepreneur. And that's also something that we added to this. Some bookkeeping to keep you alive.
One of the elements of it has been this focus on being hyper-local. Can you talk a little bit more about that, also in the context of how design companies and the industry is doing toward making the processes more sustainable?
Of course, it's super interesting with being local. That's one, it could be one of the ways of being more sustainable for the future, I must say. It's not necessarily so. It depends on how you do it and what you do. But for us, it was also like a challenge, I could speak for IKEA at least, that to do the very opposite of what we do normally, which is going in really large volumes and going maybe far away and produce like new things in big factories. This idea was to challenge ourselves also, to see could we find new ways for the future. So we said that we will do everything, you know, so source the creatives within 100 kilometers, and also actually sell the things that we were doing within 100 kilometers and produce them, which was the hardest part within 100 kilometers of, you know, Trafalgar Square, I think, at the end of the day. So that was like super big learnings for us, and I think things that we didn't talk about the program, but we did a thorough survey of all of the London area, what's possible to produce, what are the materialities that we could use at all here. And what you find there, which I think is interesting for a company like us for the future, is that maybe for the future, if you want to go for fully circular, one of the greatest sources for raw material for the future will be our biggest cities around the world, because they sit on the biggest city dumps of material. So how could we see that as a place for sourcing? And that completely tilts the way that you could do design for the future.
So sourcing from dumpsters.
Yeah, and from people. I mean, there's a lot of us who sits on a lot of stuff that we don't need, really. How could we turn that into better use for the future instead of throwing it away?
And Andu, that's something you are very focused on, locally sourcing and a sustainable way of design. How has that process been for you in London? Is it easy to do that?
I'm kind of interested in the industry that is around me. And actually, a lot of the industry has left London. So a lot of the things I'm looking at are quite small scale, things that are consumer facing. So necessities that people need to live in London and how that translates into like capacity to produce objects.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've made it through 45 minutes without bringing up Brexit, but I think now is the time. I mean, how does the UK more broadly fare when it comes to encouraging the creative industry? And has Brexit changed anything on the ground?
I think London specifically has this amazing thing where it has a really interesting, vibrant subculture, and it produces lots of culture, but it also has a really active market. So if you do something in London and it's successful, you have a way to speak to people about it, to sell it to people, for it to grow. And there aren't many cities in the world that have both of those things working really well. And I guess there's a chance that Brexit could affect both of those things. So it's yet to see how it will play out. But
Marcus, from a company perspective, what's your view on that?
I mean, we choose London for a reason, and if you look upon it historically, first of all, it's one of the most diverse cities in the world, and it's also like has been pretty resilient from the past. But when you see, like, when economy has gone down in UK in the past, creativity has gone up. There's something about limitation of resources that make people more creative. And that's also how we actually work with it, you know, how we make people creative within our company too. So we saw it as an opportunity. We think that something might happen here that could be good in the creative part.
Do we have a poll question that we can get up on the screen? Yes, when choosing a product, I look at, is that the polling answers? Okay. So design seems to be a clear winner there. Or no, maybe not. Let's go to the designer first and ask which one you would put on top.
I guess I have to say design, really, don't I? That's what I...
Yeah? Marcus, how would you rate that graph?
I think it depends on, I mean, we who sit here are pretty well off, I guess. So if you've asked the same question in Croydon, I think the answer would be different. So for me, most of all, I would say like environmental footprint, because that's, you know, the only way that we could keep on designing for the future. Otherwise, we will be out of jobs. So I would say that's the most important part.
I guess my view is that the most sustainable design is the design we sustain, we keep. So it being something that has a personal connection or means something to you, or something that's well made and well designed, I think is a big part of it. But also, I think design is an opportunity to express your personality. So this design being this thing that you buy in a kind of specific design shop, I think it's kind of like more personal and more, you know, you can seek it out in places that you wouldn't normally see it.
And that point that you made about design being very personal is a really interesting one, because, you know, and just coming back to the architectural panel, for instance, I was in India last week, and you're just going about the streets and you have all of this fantastic Mughal architecture, which is very unique to India in the sense that, you know, you might see it in Istanbul as well, but it stands out. And I'm curious, when like when you go inside people's homes, within cultures, do you see them preferring certain designs depending on the markets they're in?
Of course, there's a big difference on how people, if you just look upon how you use IKEA furniture, it's very different from market to market. And the styles as such, but our way of looking upon it is more like trying to adapt, first of all, like sizing that needs to be adapted for different markets. Things are smaller in Japan for obvious reasons and bigger in US because they have like bigger spaces and so forth. But from a style perspective, we try to actually to get as close as possible to show what's possible to do with the IKEA range. It's the same range all over the world, but the way that we put it together is different from country to country. And I find this fascinating. It's not like trying to dictate some kind of Scandinavian design world that it needs to be everywhere. It's actually, you know, rather going for the dreams of the people in the different countries.
And so you'll work with local designers in all the markets?
No, we don't. I wish we would, to be honest, but we're pretty diverse. I mean, the people who's working with product development, I think it's actually in the middle of nowhere in Småland in Sweden. It's like this tiny place that has like the IKEA product development office. There's 56 nationalities working there. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good start. What are the key trends you're seeing emerge in the design community around you right now, Andu? And do you have predictions for any big hits with consumers based on what you're seeing around you right now?
I think social media plays a big role in design from a designer's perspective, because suddenly you've got a mouthpiece where you can be your own kind of media person. But it also slightly changes the decisions you make and how the volumes you make in and what sorts of things you make. But kind of like stepping back from the designer, I think the same social media has changed who has a voice. It's kind of like, it's made conversations more diverse. So you have to kind of take into account more points of view and more people when you're thinking of ideas.
So would you say that design has become more democratic by it?
It depends where you're talking. I think design education maybe hasn't become more democratic, but the opportunities to be a creator and to kind of sell your creations and build a career from that, I think is a lot more democratic.
And what is the, for both of you, what is the one design idea that you were presented, or that, Marcus, we discussed this before, that you went to designers with and were told this is completely outrageous, and it actually came to fruition, with the exception of the chair?
I mean, this chair was impossible until this project allowed it to be made at a scale where one of them could be affordable. I think to make one is different to make, 20 or 30. So.
Or 20,000 or 200,000. I think I've kind of a fun story there, if you bear with me. So I was thinking about it since you asked before also. We got like the challenge. Sometimes we have those challenges. The hardest things to design at IKEA is the things that has the lowest prices. That's super hard because they're already low, and then you compete with something that is low. We got a challenge like 10 years ago or something from the founder actually at the time. He saw the LED bulbs, the LED technology. That's like super interesting technology. It's really good, it's lowering the energy, the energy efficiency is better, and it's also like good light source. But it cost at the time like 30 euro. And then he came to us in product development and said, and to the design department, I want to do one of these for 1 euro.
Wow.
Out. That was a big challenge.
How long did that take?
And we started to iterate on it, to your point from here before, to find like new ways, and we ended up with like a completely new typology of light source. We thought that we were really smart in the design department, so we did like a small puck instead of having a light bulb, and we achieved that small LED puck to be for 3 euros, I think, at the time. And then we were so happy about this. We really, he's going to be super happy when we show this, achieved something. And then we showed it and said, like, first of all, it's not 1 euro. No, it's not. It's 3. Secondly, if this puck will work, you need to make people buy completely new lamps to be able to buy that puck. That's like not a good idea at all, because there's not so many people that needs a lamp that actually needs a bulb. So why did you do it like that? And then we had to start off from the very beginning and go into retrofitting, which I think is also something very sweet and very where we are right now. Like designs which is about retrofitting, using something that is already there, but make retrofits make it better. So then we did a bulb. After like 3 years, we achieved this in a very non-typical IKEA solutions, because it was not about negotiating or getting the things like at a lower price. It was actually choosing fewer components, but better, made it to the price point that we could actually sell it for €1. And that changed the whole business of LED at the time. So IKEA went out, taking out all of the other typologies of light sources, only selling LED, far before legislation happened. So that was good. Good for environment too, those changes.
And so it can happen.
It can happen, but it's hard. And you have to be persistent.
Now, Andu, you know, every homeowner or office owner's design dream is to have a designer come and tell them what looks good and how to get this done, right? Now, since we all can't afford to do that, do you have any practical tips for consumers when looking for the best design products for their home spaces or office spaces?
I think...
So can we look at things from your eyes?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is not listen to tastemakers and people that tell
or
you...
trendsetters.
Trendsetters, because it is about your life. It's about your space and how you live in it. And you should sort of look inwards and ask yourself what you want from the space and how you want it to feel and look. And who, you know, a design is a representation in some ways of the designer that made it. Who do you want to populate your life, and what do you want the things you live with to mean? That would be my...
And Marcus, from a sustainability perspective, do you have any tips for consumers to keep in mind when they're looking at?
No, I think it's actually choose things that are long-lasting. That's like Andu said before. That's really good, but not just long-lasting, maybe from out of materialities, but also for your eyes. Something that you could, you know, live with for a long time. This is something you learn when you work like boring people like me that's worked in the same trade for so long. You get like your eyes get worn out more or less from out of looking at design. So you want something which is like non-design at all, like make the most boring home ever, then I could live in it.
And finally, you know, from both of you, where are the exciting new trends in design emerging? And you know, that's whether from a particular geography perspective or a particular product perspective. What should we be on the lookout for?
I think the major trends has always been it's so connected to new production technologies or new software technologies that could make things happen that was not possible before. And I think that there's still a lot to do with like generative design, you know, using tools like AutoCAD and so on to actually find completely new solutions for how to make things work that you haven't seen before. And this I think is still uncharted territory, at least in interior design. I mean, interior design is so slow. It's compared to a lot of other typologies, there's not very much happening, so it's easy to surprise people.
I think the technology has advanced so much that it's almost, it becomes easier to make a technically impressive object, but it's what do these things mean? So it's how do we bring stories into design, and how do we make them mean something that we want to keep around for a longer period of time?
So there is no counter to IKEA just yet?
There's no
counter to IKEA?
Yeah, I guess there is a lot of them, so we love competition. I would like to see more.
But no one with that kind of reach and that kind of global heft.
I mean, we're on a global scale quite big, but in a lot of countries we're super small. I mean, what do we have in the US? 1.5% of the market share. there's a lot of job to do there, and I think that we're not like looking upon us as a company. We are trying to, fulfill our vision instead, and making it possible for people to live a better life. So through the things that we sell. So that's a never-ending story, I must say.
Lastly, just to confirm, so this is not assembled at home, or is it? Okay. For those who are looking at audio.
And also one of the things, the criticism to Andu also is not at all flat packable. But he will learn.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Andu.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.